Hey, welcome to our channel where we share practical and science-based information for parents. In my videos, I usually talk about my parenting experience, the mistakes I make and what do I learn from those mistakes. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about 7 major challenges I faced after having a child, and I wish I knew those before. Watch this video till the end because I'm going to talk about strategies that helped me to overcome those challenges. Hopefully they will be useful for you, but there is no right or wrong answer here. We all try to find our way in such a difficult topic, to be honest, as parenting. So let's jump in. And the first surprise that I got is that a lot of things do not come naturally. What I mean is that all arranged in the way that parenting is supposed to be intuitive, and you're supposed to know how to breastfeed your child, how to put him or her to sleep, etc., etc. But actually maybe that was true when we lived in the bigger communities. But for example, I was the youngest child. I didn't see a lot of babies around me. I didn't see a lot of women taking care of their kids, so I had to learn many things the hard way, and probably the hardest for me was the breastfeeding. So if you intend to breastfeed, my advice would be to get and find the lactation consultant rather sooner than later. So especially if you see any struggles, because this thing should start to work like in a couple of days, and I waited 2 months, I think, until I seek for help, and that was a big mistake of mine. And by the way, we have very nice interview with Jack Newman here. He's a Canadian pediatrician and world-known expert in the topic of breastfeeding. He's talking about the ways how to make breastfeeding simple. I also highly recommend to watch the other interview with Nancy Mochbacher. She is the lactation consultant from Chicago area. She wrote many great books for lactation professionals, and she's focusing in this interview how to make breastfeeding work, especially if you're planning to go to the office or you have to be outside of house for many hours. So check this out, and my first advice is to seek for help and ask for professional help if you see that some things do not work, the things that you suppose they should work. The second point is expectations versus reality, and in my case it was about my body image and the way I looked. I had a lot of women around me who were saying to me, oh come on, you will come back in shape in 1 year or 6 months, and it was not the case for me, and I didn't feel myself completely back up to 3 years old of my child. And I think that these expectations were just wrong for me, and I wish I wouldn't create those, and I wish there were less people around me telling me that, oh come on, it's going to be, fine. And I think what helped me, there were 2 things. One is that I was trying to appreciate the fact that my body went, and me as a whole person went through this major change and major challenge of giving birth, and it's okay to feel different and look different. And the second point is that I got quite a lot of appreciation from my husband about my body and how do I look and how does he feel about it, and I think that was super useful. So if you feel that you don't like yourself, how you look, and your body looks not the way that you expected, I think asking for appreciation from your partner is super important. Sometimes, people just don't think this is important for us, and we have to request, and that's okay. The third surprise and the biggest challenge I wish I knew in advance was that the fact that all my vulnerabilities, psychological insecurities, they multiplied 10 times after having a child, especially during the first 6 months and maybe even a year. For example, I tend to be quite passive-aggressive when stressed and when I feel myself vulnerable. So I tend to do a lot of stuff myself, thinking that my partner, for example, he should know that I want him to help me, but I wouldn't request the help myself. I suffered a lot from this strategy. I knew it. I was in therapy like for 5 years, but it didn't help me during these first 3 to 6 months. So I think this is important to know and think of the strategies that might work against you during this period, and what could be your safety net, how you can request help and how you can request someone to be there for you. And I think if I would ask for probably psychological help at this period of time, that would help me a lot, and I would probably overcome some major challenges, which is the number 4. And the number 4 is that the same as for our own personal insecurities, they multiply. The problems that we have in partnership with other person, the things that we swept under the rug and we sort of avoided talking, they start to multiply x20. And that happened for our couple as well. And I think that's also important to talk about this publicly to other parents and know that this is a huge transformation for both partners. And because many of us still live in a very atomic families, and we don't see how other couples overcome those challenges, or we see a lot of negative examples like people break after a year of having a child or something like this, we don't actually know how to deal with a lot of things that are happening. I think what helped us is that we already had experience of some difficult times in our relationships, and we were mature enough to hold several tough conversations, intense, emotionally intense conversations, and do not fall apart and try to understand the other person's perspective. But what I would do differently next time for sure is to have the conversation in advance, how each of us actually expects this new role to emerge. Like, what do we expect from other partner? What do we expect from ourselves? How we can support each other? How we can take care more about us as a couple, not just us becoming parents, and that sort of absorbs all the other roles. So I would definitely dedicate some time with my partner talking about this and discovering his point of view and expressing my own point of view, so that could be much more clear. The 5th big surprise for me was the fact that the birthing experience lives much longer in our body and in ourselves than I would expect it. And I had quite a nice birth, and it was actually very sort of, I expected it wouldn't be so good, but it was really good. And that affected the way I felt postpartum as well, because I think I had such a high bar of me accomplishing something. Only now I understand that actually I approach the birth itself as an accomplishment, as something that I have to achieve. So imagine what would happen if it wouldn't be okay for whatever reason, which is happening all the time. So I just got lucky. And by setting myself for such a high bar of like, I have to succeed as a mom all times starting from the birth, it actually ruined my postpartum experience, because I realized that I'm failing. I gave birth, it was nice, and then I started to fail. And I think it could work vice versa. So I would imagine that if someone would have a traumatic birth, or just the birth that didn't fit the expectations, that would also live in the body and emotions for very, very long time, for months and years. And what is really useful, the approach that I found really useful in this topic, is the approach of birthing from within. I leave the link on them in the comments, so check out their website. But they approach to birth as initiation, as something unknown, where we will definitely meet something that we wouldn't expect, and how we could actually be flexible enough and adaptive enough to meet this unknown, whatever it's going to be, and be okay with that. We also have a very nice interview with Nikki Shahid, who is one of their mentors in Birthing from Within ecosystem. So check her interview. She's great. She's really great. If you're preparing for birth, highly recommend this. So the sixth one, it wasn't a major challenge, but still it was a big surprise that moms communities could be super toxic. I wouldn't expect this because I saw that, Mother's Day, before having kids, I was thinking that Mother's Day, people who sort of support each other, who help you, but actually it's not the case all the time. Quite often it's not the case, and you might randomly ask a question on a Facebook group or whatever and receive so much judgment about the decision that you've made or the way you parent your child or whatever it is. So my suggestion here is to find your tribe as early as possible and stick with people who support the values. Listen to your gut feeling and try to find your own way. Do not stick too much to whatever other people are saying to you. That's super important. Find people that will support you, not judge you. And the seventh point, I decided to ask in our Facebook group and on our Instagram, what are the things that people wish they knew before having a child. You can see all these answers here. And I hope that gives you an idea that, we all meet unexpected things after having children, and that's okay. But you could not prepare yourself for many of those. But I think being aware that something or even a lot of things will come up actually helps us to get much better experience, especially early days from parenting. So I hope this video was useful, and subscribe to our channel, like it, and please leave us a comment. Let us know if what we are doing is actually useful for you, and what were your points or challenges that you faced after having kids and some major surprises. Let us know in the comments. I really want to talk about this and make sure that we actually talking about parenting as something realistic and truthful, not something perfect that we have to just show to other people that we are good parents, but actually that we're talking about real stuff. So thank you so much, and see you in the next video.